So today's video is going to be the first in a series of beer reviews we do, and this one is going to be a review of what's going to become our February beer of the month, which is a California Common. This is the first draft done by Logan, and we have a couple of changes that we've done going into the final draft. You can see a link to the recipe, the final recipe below. Normally when we do these reviews though, they won't be our beers of the month or our beers at all. They'll usually be beers that customers have brought in. By reviewing them over these videos, we hope to first of all give them great feedback, second of all get a little bit of practice tasting and videoing our reviews as well, and finally giving hopefully some advice and some knowledge to the people who are reviewing at home. So something cool that we're going to be doing is working with the local club, the Inland Brewers Unite, and they're going to be taking our beers of the month and having a lot of people brew the same beer with a small handful of variables, and then we'll come together after the beer is all done, taste them, and explore the data. I'll post a link to the Facebook page and website of the Inland Brewers Unite below in case you want to check them out and see what other experiments they've already done, either as a whole club or individually, and what else they have going on. Here is our first beer review, and it is a California Common brewed by Logan. Cheers. Hey everybody, so this is going to be the first in a series of beer reviews we're doing where beers that we get here in the shop we're going to be tasting in front of you and letting you know what we think. We're going to be analyzing the style, we're going to be analyzing the overall flavor of the beer, and we're going to be talking specifically to the brewer of the beer about what they might need to change or how good they did. In this case, this is the first one, so we're actually using a beer that Logan made here. It's a California Common. So Logan, tell us what you did in this beer.
So basically how I designed this beer, I went on to BJCP, which for those of you that don't know is Beer Judging Certification website, and just kind of looked up the style guidelines for this style of beer. And I thought it's coming late winter, kind of going into spring, and I've never really done a California Common myself, and I thought it would be, due to the style, I thought it would be a good transition from some of our darker winter beers into sort of some more hop forward and or lighter bodied beers. So this style is supposed to have a kind of crystal backbone to it with Northern Brewer hops, and used with a yeast strain usually called oddly enough, California lager yeast, which is a strain that was originally taken from Europe, brought over to the West Coast, and then over the years of it being used there in the specific environment of the coastline, kind of changed into its own beast, so to say.
So the prodigal beer that this was made after was Anchor Steam. Anchor Steam is from Anchor Brewing Company, and it's one of the first breweries, one of the first major breweries, I believe, after Prohibition. And they popularized this styles. In the old days when they first started, they actually used to use cool ships on the top of their brewery to cool down their beer before pitching their California lager yeast. The cool ships are very wide vessels. They allow for evaporation. And the San Francisco air is really, really muggy, and so while the beer was cooling down before they pitched the yeast, it would create these big clouds of steam above the brewery, which is why this beer style was originally called a steam beer. Steam beer is something that's trademarked by Anchor Steam, or by Anchor Brewing Company, and so the style, as it was adapted into more breweries, became known as a California lager. Like Logan said, this beer is typically noted by a crystal character. Usually crystal 60 is the common crystal used in this beer, and then Northern Brewer hops, which can create a woody and minty kind of flavor. It's also a lager beer typically, and so it's usually crisp and clean, but this lager is a strain that's also designed to be able to ferment at a warmer temperature, and at that warmer temperature it can sometimes come with slight fruit characteristics, but still not overbearing. Overall it feels clean to the palate. In this beer I get subtle hints of that wood. I do get the mint as well. Overall the hop profile I would say is very soft.
It is, yes, and I did do a fairly small addition on this, which looking back on it I think we'll actually probably up that for our beer of the month here. So I definitely get the mint as well. I would like this to be a little clearer at this point, a little cleaner in flavor. However, this is still pretty fresh beer. I think that about 2 weeks or so of being at lager temperature will do some wonders for it.
Yeah, what I can get off of it is definitely a good amount of that wooden mint character, but from a fresh Inkersheim that I've tasted before, that especially that minty softness can actually carry through a little bit more, and so I would say a bigger late addition of Northern Brewer hops in the boil, I think will help push forward that late addition. I also get a little bit of biscuit notes. Can you talk about some of the malts that you used in there?
Yeah, so the malts in this beer I used, if I remember correctly, would be Victory malts, which gives you that biscuit flavor. Victory malt is kind of my go-to light biscuit malt just because it's so versatile in so many beers. I think in this one it happens to pop through just a little bit more than I would like it to. I think if I were to redo it, I would reduce it a bit more. The other specialty malt I used was a malt called Sakura 50 from Great Western. It's one I've been playing around with a little bit, and it's sort of a hybrid between somewhat of like a Caramunic malt, which would be sort of a crystal biscuit, and something like a Caramel 60 malt, which is going to sort of bridge those slightly toasty, slightly biscuity flavors with that very forward sweet flavor in the beer. Otherwise, I just used a base, I believe it was light dry malt extract to get the sugars from it. So yeah, and this is an extract beer. So quite young beer, really. I think, like I said, just another 2 or 3 weeks will really clean this beer up, and that's why, if you can see there, it's actually not the cleanest thing right now. So
It'll get there. Alex, anything else you tasted in it?
I think he's more
he's
caramel.
like downed it.
A little bit more of that
I think
caramel
it's
malt
more
to
caramel.
Yeah.
It must have sucked something terrible.
It was awful.
I absolutely hate it. For the next iteration of this beer, I think we both decided that we're going to switch around the biscuit malt Victory, or might
Get a
have
little
been
bit higher.
special roast.
Late hop edition
Yeah.
as well.
So we'll turn that into C60 for that extra caramel touch, and yeah, a little bit higher late addition on the Northern Brewer to hopefully push forward that kind of soft minty flavor. And even with this beer, that extended lagering period that we're going to have from it will definitely help push it from. Right now, it kind of tastes like a really good amber ale.
Yeah, exactly. I would not hesitate to take kind of this base and run with it as an amber. To be honest, I think 1056 or which is Y Yeast American Ale.
The Chico Ale strain, Sierra Nevada, their house strain.
Or even the other thing I could think of would be some kind of a fairly clean English style yeast would actually turn this into fairly between that and maybe a slight addition change in the hops would make it into a great ESB.
Yeah. So
Matter of fact,
overall, final thoughts on this? Not quite proper California common, but still a very good beer. Still very young. Needs a little bit to drop that bite from the yeast and protein haze that's in it, but still a very good beer. And what do you guys think for turning into a California common in the future?
you know, it's a good stepping point.
A good stepping point, yeah.
From
Just
a
touch more sweetness.
Touch
That's
more
it.
sweetness.
touch more sweetness,
Like
yeah.
some
I know. From
minimal
the
sugar,
standpoint
maybe.
of brewing it, it's I'm definitely disappointed, but I've got a ballpark. I'm never happy with what I
Yeah, it was awful.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.
Oh.
Or a California common style beer. Cheers.